the Adam Smith Institute, get his thoughts on what my next guest has to say. Deep sigh of relief for everybody. We've got the same sensible people on the air today. Professor Carl Heneghan, Professor of Evidence-Based Medicine at the University of Oxford, joins us once again. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Well, I mean, it's been I think it's a very difficult weekend for a lot of people. I've got to be honest with you. I felt broken on Saturday when I saw that press conference and more restrictions and more rules coming in. It felt to me like, here we go again. That's winter, that's Christmas, that's the next few months. God knows what happens next. Tell us where you think we are and how worried we should be, if at all.
Well, I think one of the keys about healthcare is as you gain experience and expertise, what you're supposed to do is slow down and become more thoughtful. You've just set out a whole host of parameters that show us we're becoming more panicked than ever. The WHO kicked it off from the 24th to the 26th of November. Within 48 hours, they're telling us there's a variant of concern. Then we've got the Prime Minister meeting and now the G7. And you're right. And we're in a better place than we've ever been in terms of the impact of this disease. Yet we're panicking like we've never seen it before. Now, there are a whole host of issues that are happening, but it's distracting from the main problems again. I'm just reading today about the social care crisis. 100,000 workers missing. 1.5 million hours of social care gone down the pan in the last 3 months. Yet here we are, completely unfocused on the problems at hand. I too feel right now in a bad place about how we're thinking about this and how people boost their spirits and their mental well-being when we're getting these policies that just seem to me now incredulous in terms of what they're trying to achieve.
And this is the thing, indeed. I mean, we're told again, it's just face masks, it's some travel restrictions. The World Health Organization has criticised those travel restrictions. And South Africa, we're going to talk to the chair of the South African Medical Association, Dr. Angelique Coetzee, who's one of those who helped discover this new variant and identify it, genomic sequencing, and then to actually tell the world that actually we're penalising a country like South Africa that is doing really good research and really good work. We've already got this variant in the country. We've had 3 Omicron cases already identified. There may be many more. We just haven't found them yet. In which case, what is the point of travel restrictions at this point?
Yeah, well, look, what we're talking about when let's be clear about a variant of concern, it's 3 things. It's either more transmissible, it causes more severe disease, or it escapes the immune system like the vaccines. Of those 3, we only know one thing we consider, which you're going to talk to the African doctor, that actually seems it causes milder disease because nobody's hospitalized, and they talked about a bit of fatigue and a tickly cough. We know nothing about the other parameters. So normally we should take them issues and study them and understand where we are, and we should come back in 3 weeks' time and talk about that. But you're right, the key about transmissibility, it's not just the actual variant, it's the time of year. Yeah. It's a susceptible population. It's probably the #1 factor right now. So if you compare somebody like Germany and Sweden, you'll see huge differences in who's had the infection so far. And there are other bits of our immunity if you've had the infection that protect you. So you're right to say is the virus only has potentially a small improvement in transmissibility compared to all the other factors. But right now you consider this is the language again is terrible, super scary variant. It's just unacceptable for the media to be pushing this line and putting people in a really bad space right now as we go into the middle of winter.
And again, watching that press conference on Saturday night, there was not one question from any member of the media which was asking the government to provide evidence for the measures that they were bringing in. Let's talk first of all about the issue of masks. As of tomorrow, you will be required to wear a face mask in a shop, bank or on public transport, and also slipped in, for some reason not mentioned in that press conference on the Saturday night, slipped out last night, not even mentioned on the Sunday morning news shows, face masks to be worn in communal areas by all secondary school pupils, not the teachers, interestingly, just visitors and secondary school pupils in communal areas from year 7 and above from this morning. And also we've got travel restrictions as well. But in terms of the masks, lots of people say, look, even if they just work a little bit, it's worth wearing a mask. Some have claimed up to 53% efficacy of wearing a mask in terms of it will cut transmission to someone else if you've got COVID by 53%. And I know the study they're referring to there, but you're the professor of evidence-based medicine. What evidence is there that the face masks that are routinely worn by people, either cloth or those pale blue ones, the paper ones, that they actually do stop transmission at all or a little bit?
Well, we must have talked about this about half a dozen times now, Julia, about the lack of high quality evidence. But let's assume they do work. Like they did in the Denmark trial, what you need to do then is supply everybody with masks so that when they use it once, they then put it in a bin, a biosecure bin, and put it in the bin. The cloth masks certainly do nothing. So if you're going to do something, the number one thing is you have to provide the whole country with these face masks. But let's be clear, if you think they work, in Germany and Austria, they mandated to have the FFP masks. These are the medical grade masks. And look what's happened. And that was last January. They mandated them in public spaces, shops. And actually now Germany and Austria having to bring in complete restrictions to deal with the rising cases. Now, you would think if you considered this was your last line of treatment, it was one of the things you're going to go to, you would develop an evidence base. This is an utter failure of our health systems, our research systems, and our advisors to be able to do this. And in the absence, particularly in school settings, we should be incredibly mindful of the impact on children's well-being. Do we want to keep them in a perpetual state of anxiety as they try to go about their daily business? For that, I feel incredibly emotional about what we're trying to do. I just think we're sending the wrong message to the next generation, and I can't explain why we're doing that.
And given given that the vast majority of secondary school pupils have already had COVID, it does seem quite bizarre. I mean, I've given my daughter a mask exemption. I'm not having her wearing a mask in school. She had COVID about a month ago. She's had COVID back in March 2020. She doesn't have COVID. She can't give COVID to someone else. So why on earth should she wear a mask? She's not protecting herself or anyone else. Parents are entitled to exempt their children. There's perfectly good reason to do so.
I think it's incredibly important to have this discussion with your children to reduce their anxiety so that they, as I said, can go about their life. I've seen many children who are incredibly worried about the illness, whether they're going to be ill, and that's an important to negate that anxiety. But I think there are two things happen. One is you're talking about this free will and liberty to make decisions. When does that kick in? When are we to be trusted to make better decisions? On the flip side, though, there'll be some people, and a lot of people, just go, look, I'm not going to the shops. I'm just not going to go out, and that'll be bad for UK PLC. So at some point in this pandemic, there needs to be a complete sea change of the advice, a complete sea change into understanding that we can make decisions in our own best interest. And the data will provide us with that. At the moment, we've got less than 6,000 people in hospital compared to over 30,000 at the peak last winter. When are we going to put that in front of people and say, we're in a safe space? When the data changes, we'll be able to respond to that. But somehow this government doesn't trust us and think we all need to be treated like primary school children.
Carl Heneghan, thank you very much. Always good to talk to you, Professor of Evidence-Based Medicine at University of Oxford. 7:17 is the time. Matthew Lesh